We're going to begin by laying down some U Shine along the top of the page, and U Shine is a neon yellow. Now we are going to continue working our way down the paper with some holly, and I am going to blend in the holly to the U Shine to tone that yellow down a bit and make it match the rest of the page. I am going to add a bit more U Shine to the bottom to make it a little bit more uniform. Now over that, I am going to add a bit more holly. Now I'm not going to mix it in such a way that the color is even across the entire page. I really want some variation in the color, so I'm mixing in some parts more than others. Now I'm going to take my helix tool to make a half moon. You can use any circular object that you have on hand. And I am going to manually close off half of the moon. I'm not going to use the helix maker for this. I'm just going to eyeball it and hope for the best. With Supercluster, I'm going to completely fill in the moon. Now, Supercluster is very opaque, so a little does go a long way. I'm going to use a very thin brush. This is my number 2 Princeton Heritage, and I'm going to fill in the entire moon. You don't need to use a thin brush. I just used that brush because that's the brush that I'm going to use to make the drips coming off the moon. Once you have completely filled in your moon, take a ruler to draw some straight lines going down your page off of the moon. And my moon is still wet, so I'm not putting the ruler over the moon. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. You can put as many lines as you want. These are going to be our guidelines for the drips. Using the same small brush, I'm going to start at the very top with a V. So the Supercluster is not going to drip in a very straight line. So if you have a V, it does give it that shape of a drip forming from the very top. And as you go down, as your brush travels down that line, make the lines a bit thinner. So make it thicker on top and a little bit thinner on the bottom. And if your brush skips a little, or if your line is a little wavy, that's perfectly fine. It gives it a more natural look and a more natural texture. For the very first drip, which is the longest drip, I'm going to kind of leave it skinny at the bottom. And for the next ones, you'll notice that I'll put a little teardrop shape at the bottom. In between some of the lines, you can add a few very tiny drips just to make it look like the drips are beginning to form. I'm going to add some little bubble structures at the bottom. And if you look back on some previous YouTube lives, I think last year around this time, we did a live on these bubbles. So I will actually link it in the description below so that you can take a look at it if you want a little more in-depth tutorial on how I do these. So for now, just follow along. What I'm doing is going in for the top of the bubble, and I'm just kind of freehanding them. So going in at the top with my brush loaded with paint, and then I am cleaning my brush off and then watering the paint as we go down. So I'm gonna do a few. I'm not gonna get too carried away with this. I'm just gonna do a few at the bottom of the page, and then just leave it at that. You can add more obviously if you'd like. Once my bubbles are done and dry, I'm gonna add some clouds next to the moon. And I'm going to freehand this with the Copic Opaque White and using a bit of a larger brush. So this one is a size 4. And the clouds are gonna be a little bit more bubbly and a little bit more structured than I usually make them. So I am going to do a very brief outline on top first. And just kind of follow like a bubbly curve, just like the curves of the bubbles that you did at the bottom. And I'm not going to completely close off the cloud. As you can see here, I just round it off a bit, and then I'm going to clean my brush off, water it, and drag a little bit of that paint down. But I don't want to close off the cloud completely at the bottom. I want that to kind of blend into the background a bit. And I'm going to do this a few times for various clouds along the top. Again, you can put as many or as little clouds as you would like. Next, I am taking that same white and I am going to do the same thing that I did with the clouds, except I'm going to do that on the bubbles. So I'm going to outline each bubble with the white, and then I am going to clean my brush off and then drag some of that white down. And I will be doing this for every bubble that I added at the bottom. Now I'm going back up and it's looking a little sparse to me up there. So I'm going to add some more clouds to the top. And I'm going to be using the same exact technique that I used earlier. Now, since I don't want any of the white paint to go onto my moon, I am actually going to manually go in and dot some white into the background just to give it some stars. And I am going to tap in some stars at the bottom. You can continue manually adding them to make it a bit more uniform, or you can just splatter it in. If you do get some white on your moon, just go over it with the shimmer once more. Now I'm going to take some of the super cluster and very finely outline the very tops of the bubbles. Now I cut out the part here where I forgot to switch from super cluster to white, and I accidentally started making a cloud with the super cluster. So I tried to blot it out, but super cluster is very opaque and it is a staining shimmer. I kid you not. So I am going over that over my mistake with a very heavy hand. So I'm going over it with a lot of Copic opaque white, and I'm using the same technique that I used before by watering it down, but this time I'm adding just a bit more of the Copic opaque white to the cloud to cover up that mess that mess of shimmer that I put underneath it. So that's my bad, but I was able to fix it at the end. So just to even it out, since it looks like I made an even fluffier cloud on one side, I am fluffing out the other side as well. And there you have it, a very super simple celestial piece.